New day, new project. So I got the motor and transmission sitting on the frame. Everything's bolted down. Although I got to pull that transmission mount out. It's a little too tall. I got a shorter one coming, which I'm going to mock up with a piece of wood for right now. Today, I'm going to start working on the exhaust. Like I did with the Firebird, I'm going to fabricate the exhaust all the way back. I got all my pieces, my tools are set up. I even dragged the plasma table in here to cut brackets. This is the kit that I bought. The flex pipe I bought separately, obviously. And so this kit primarily, you just buy a bunch of assorted bends. There's 90s, 45s, and 180s, and straight pipe. This is 16 gauge. It's a little thicker than what I did last time. Last time was 14 gauge. I also bought a number of smaller, just piecemeal 45-degree elbows, and these are okay. I do have a problem with these, however. I purchased these. These are sharp 90s. They are not the normal radius. A radius for tubing is typically 1.5 times the diameter. This looks like it's the diameter. So it's just times 1. So those, I got to be very careful about how I use those. I can use them in certain areas, but everything I've designed was designed for the 1.5 radius, which is like 3.75 inches for a 2.5-inch stock. This is all 2.5-inch stock. That's what I like to use. I got some Borla mufflers over there, which you'll see come out here when we get a little further back. But yeah, that's where we're into today. Just kind of update you on what I've done over the last couple days. I got the motor sitting on here. I ran like the fuel line, put a little piece of thermal protection on that, just where it goes up over the exhaust. Just don't need it, just being super paranoid. Over here, I plumbed in the transmission cooler. I had to replace my hard lines, put soft lines in that, just because the hard lines, we couldn't get them to seal right, so I'm like, I don't want to mess with that my whole life. So the transmission cooler's plumbed in. Now I still have the option to take and breaking one of these lines and running it through the radiator if I wish, but I'm going to try it like this first. I mean, everybody I've seen says this works pretty good. So it's a nice, neat setup. I might make a little ductwork or ramp or something to draw some air up over it, but we'll see. I got to be careful. This thing is low. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is jack that transmission up, support the back of it, pull that transmission mount out and set it down on a block of wood. I did put some transmission fluid in it. Loaded 6 quarts, got 6 more to add. I loaded 5 quarts, but I've just got to top that off after I prime the pump. So I'm not exactly sure how much it needs because I had filled the filter ahead of time. So I just make little notes so I don't forget to do that, because my luck, I'd be like burning up a transmission and listening to the motor run, getting all excited. So that's going to be my next adventure. First thing I'm going to do is get this tranny jacked up, pull that mount out, set my little block of wood in there, and mock up my height, because obviously that height is going to change this angle. Now this is 45 degrees, which is fine, but I just want to make sure I'm spot on with that. So we're going to get going with that. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is build my X pipe. And to build the X pipe, you got to cut off like a little sliver of a 90. Hopefully that's in plain in view, whatever. The other thing I want to point out is with these elbows, it's a little hard to tell sometimes where the bend actually starts and stops. So I mark them with a marker, and I use this jig for that. You literally just set it in there, line it up, and it's not super critical that they be exactly at the end of the bend. It's only critical that you use them the same place every time. So I take a marker and I just say, okay, that's my datum. That's where my 0 mark is going to be. So anything I measure will be from that line now, and that'll make more sense later. But this little jig just does the pie slice off the edge there. Got to be really careful. You don't want this getting into your saw. You don't want to cut it, but at the end of the day, it is a nice little jig. And it gets me very close. So I'll show you how this works. And I'm now using it with the Revolution saw, where before I'd have to use this with a disc grinder, which kind of blew. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so you saw I started out really slow. You got to be, you don't want the blade to deflect because you're kind of cutting into the side of an arch. So you got to go really slow to start and just kind of let it eat at its own pace. This blade, you don't want to get the material hot enough to glow. That kind of means you're not doing the blade any favors. But you can see when sometimes you kind of just have to do that when you're in a situation like that. But that's basically what I was going for, and I'll show you how these go together here in a minute. So you can see now I've got two nice flat cuts, and that joins the two pipes together, and you have a perfect X pipe. And then I just clamp them and tack them together once I cut my ends and get everything else where I need it. So I'm going to carry on, and I'll bring you back when I've got something else to show you here. We're just going to start moving through this process. Okay, this is where I've gotten to so far. This header has a slightly different angle than that header over there. That one's like 45. This one is like 7 degrees less. So I'm working my way back through, trying to stay squared up. That's what all the wood paddles are here. Stay squared up through the cross member hole or channel, trough, whatever you want to call it. I have this tacked up. I'm going to drag the TIG over here now and really just kind of put a bunch of tacks on that so that its position relative to everything else can't move at this point. That's really what I'm going for here. So I'm going to tack it up a little bit. I really want that to be relaxed where it goes through there, and it's really not right now. So I'm hoping when I just massage that with a few more tacks and a little more heat, that will come into it. But yeah, so that's basically it. I've got a 45 here, a 45 here into the flex joint, a straight piece into another. Well, that one would be not 45, but 38. So that would be a 38-degree angle on that joint, and then straight up to the bell collector. I'm going to put another V-band joint back here right before the cross, but I'll get to that shortly. But for right now, this is kind of where I'm headed. What else? It's, this part here is kind of monotonous because you got to get it just right, and the key is you want these two pipes here to be parallel when they cross through that cross member and at the same distance. It's all pretty critical, actually. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, I'm going to drag the TIG over here, throw a few more tacks on these pieces so I can take it out and tack it up real well, and then I will bring it back over, fit it one more time, and probably just leave it till I get to a point where it's time to start welding. Welding them up for real. I usually just tack everything up, then take it back apart in pieces and weld it up as one, as individual assemblies. And that way, it's manageable, controllable, and not crazy. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to drag the TIG over, tack up some more, on this first header pipe. Then that header pipe's got to be fit up a little better, and then I can tack that one up as well. These collectors here are a little bigger than 2.5, so I had to bell out my ends a little bit to get them to mate up to this nicely, so there's a nice tight seam there. Then of course I'm going to go all the way around it with TIG weld. But that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to try to TIG weld this one myself. I had my friend Bobby come down, my expert welder, last time for the Firebird, almost exactly a year ago actually, about 11 months ago. It's kind of feeling like I'm deja vu all over again. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this going, and then I'll start working on the X, and then it gets to be a little more fun from there back. And we'll figure out how to get it out the back. Now, there's two choices here. I was thinking about just dumping that straight to the ground right after that last cross member, but I don't think I want to do that. I'm gonna bring it out to the tail and make it look good. So, anyway, here we go. Yeah, that's about it for right now. I'll bring you back when I got you some more to show you. Okay, I've got updates. So, what you see so far is about a day's worth of work. The X-pipe is a lot to calculate because you got to get the actual width right down there, the width right back here. There's a whole thing. So what I've got to do next is I haven't welded in the two flange joints yet because I need to make sure that this rear section is centered up perfectly in the frame. And right now it's a little bit to the passenger side. So I've got to pull off a pipe, shorten up a little bit, and bring it back and just keep tweaking it until I get it right. Then the next thing is the mufflers are going to go on the end of those pipes and then exit out through that saddle and then whoop, 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 out the back. So that's about it. Of course, I haven't finished welded anything yet. I've just kind of got stuff tacked up, but this is the way I like to do my exhausts. It's fairly straightforward. I wish that saddle was a little bit outboard of where it is for the LS engine. Then I wouldn't have to put those little dog legs in it. That would have been nicer, I think, but it's totally manageable. It's just, if to do this again, I would definitely alter that cross member so that those saddles go outboard about another, well, almost to the edge of them. So, you know, live and learn next time. But it definitely a nice setup. I love the fact that the exhaust is all up in the frame on this design. You can flip that cross member over and go under it in the front if you wish. I kind of just like it up in tight. Everything's going to be raised up off the back here anyway, so there's no clearance issues. It isn't like you're going to get anything too awful hot. So, yeah, I think this is going to work out really nice. Okay, so I'm going to pop that left header drop off, trim it up enough to get this evened up in the back, tack in my flanges, and then, yeah, should be good to go. Okay, so I've set the mufflers in. I like these Borla Pro XS. They're got a good sound. They don't drone. They're not super loud. Just a great muffler all the way around. I used them on my Firebird. I'm going to use them on this. I am going to just simulate the drive shaft. I think there's a ton of clearance there, but I just want to be absolutely sure. Looking at it from this angle, looks like there's plenty, but I got to wait until I can pull that clamp out to do that. So I don't want to do that just yet, but I am going to simulate it before I final weld anything. Now, I got to start working on the tailpipe section here, where it's going to go straight back, down at an angle, out underneath the differential, back up at an angle, and out deep that way. Doink. So this ought to be a plumber's nightmare. So I'm gonna get started on that and see what I get. Not really sure how this is gonna go yet, but I'll figure it out. My drawing is useful, but not completely helpful because these smaller 45s that I bought here are not the same bend radius as the big pipes. So I'm just having to wing it a little bit, but it's not a huge deal. It's just, it does slow me down a bit. But anyway, all right, I'll bring you back when I show you, get something mocked up, see how this is gonna go. All right, so I'm back on the exhaust. I've got all my pieces fabbed all the way to the rear. Now I've got to hang everything by brackets. But one thing I've noticed is that my X pipe, this side is about 2 degrees up. That side, or 3 degrees up, that side's about 1 degree up. So for some reason, somehow, I have that a little out of sorts. So I'm gonna pull that back off, put it on the welding table flat and see where it's, why it's hooking up. But, you know, it's just tacked right now, so it's super easy for me to just nip those tacks, straighten that right out, make sure everything's perfectly level before I start to bracket in the X pipe. And I cut the brackets, but they're in the tumbler right now. I'll show you to them when I get ready to put them on. But I made like an arch bracket that hangs it over the top of the cross member. Then there's brackets that'll come off to the side from the X pipe before the muffler. I didn't put anything on the muffler. And then after the muffler, there's a pipe that goes under the differential, and there's a bracket that holds that, and then the tailpipes, and there's a separate bracket for those. So anyway, that's about it. But like I said, I'm gonna pop this X pipe back off for a minute and have a good look at it and see if I can figure out, maybe I clocked that 45 a little wrong or something, but it's up about 2 degrees more than that side. So I want that nice and flat, so when I head back through, there's nothing that's gonna get weird on me as I go. Okay, so I fabricated up some brackets. I made these little arch brackets for the front just because I think that's gonna be the easiest way to keep that pipe up off from the, you know, beating off the cross member. And so you can kind of see I built those arches and I put a little gusset in there so that I get plenty of weld surface so it doesn't sit there and tweak like this and eventually break. Back here, it's a little simpler. I just made a little L bracket with some, you can see I put some little, I'll get you a good shot of it here. Some little tabs on there here so that give yourself plenty of area to weld onto the pipe. And it's not just a butt weld, it's got some other advantage to it. So that will center up the X and hold it up to the proper height up here. Next step is gonna be, I just gotta come along and tack those in real well, get those sitting properly. Wanna make sure that they're even this way so that when I tighten them down, they go down uniform. And again, I have these high temp bushings. They're like a two-piece bushing that pinches it from both sides. So that will keep that all in play. So yeah, I'm gonna drag the TIG over here, tack all this stuff on, so the next time I pull the X out, it will be where it needs to be. I think I'm making contact here, but this was designed so I could take a hose clamp and clamp around these tabs just to draw everything together while I tack it and hold it in place while I weld it. I'm not even sure I need that. It seems to be a good solid fit. Maybe a little bit on that one. Anyway, all right, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna keep moving ahead and I'll bring you back when I got more to show you. Okay, brackets are tacked in. I've gone through and prick punched the location of the other bits, the other, the bushings. So I've gone through and center punched those. Everything looks good, although now I'm thinking I may have screwed up that one. I gotta go back and check. clamped on my mufflers. Now I'm ready to start working the next section of pipe back. And I just want to make sure that ends at the back of the differential. I want to make sure I have good clearance on everything and make sure that the angle is the same on both sides. And I'll show you what I'm into here in a minute. All right, so hopefully you can see this pretty well, but I fabricated this bracket, just cut it on the plasma, bent her up. I'm gonna remember to leave room for that hole. But anyway, so the idea here is I've been given myself some nice little slots there to hang the pipes from. This way I can just clamp them off to that bracket with these fancy clamps. And then I don't have to worry about, you know, separating the two sides of this bracket so that I can pull one side down and not the other. But that's generally the theory here. So I'm gonna now, I've got pipes that run from the back of the muffler up through to here. I'm gonna slip those on right now. I wanna put the clamps on the muffler as well, just so I can kind of hold it all in place and make sure everything is where it should be. Just eyeballing it, it looks like both mufflers are cocked to the driver's side a little bit, looking at that saddle. So that's the next step, get these intermediate pipes in and make sure everything's the same to this point. Once that's done, then I can start working on the tails. Okay, so I've clamped the brackets up to the pipes up to those brackets. That all worked out pretty well. I should have given myself about another 1/4 inch spacing. It's pretty much line to line right here, which was a mistake. I should have spaced that out just a hair more. And if I care to, I can just go redo that bracket. If it had another 1/4 inch or 3/8 at the outside, it would be perfect. But the hanger scheme works. So I am now going to even out these two pipes and then figure out what my brackets look like for the rear. Now, I got one pipe heading up and one pipe heading down, and I'm not sure which one's right, or if they're both wrong. So I've got to adjust one of those at least, which basically means disconnecting this 45 right here, and then retacking it at the proper angle, which is not a big deal. That's why they're only tacked together. But that is the concept. And then I'm going to work up one more bracket that comes down from here, bolted to the frame. I gotta be careful because I don't want to get into my my tow hook arrangement here, which is gonna, you know, kind of come in like this. So I gotta make sure I leave plenty of room for that. Maybe I'll do the bracket back here, right off the tail, and just come up to this plate with it. That probably would work fine. Yeah, why don't I just do that? That seems far easier. Anyway, let's continue on here. I'm gonna check all my angles right now, figure out where I am compromised on these two pipes. I believe it's just one of these 45s is off. I just can't tell which one. This one seems uphill. The other one seems downhill, but the other one might be right. So anyway, let me mess around with this a little bit. But that's basically what it looks like. It all comes out and goes up, and I've got clearance on my sway bar right here. That won't hit because that's a rigid mount. Everything's mounted rigid there. And I've got clearance on my sway bar over here, although I am a little lower. I just gotta make some measurements. And then the way this is set up is I can pivot this right here on these two joints and clock these up however I want them. So even if when I put the body on, if I decide the pipe needs to be a little higher or a little lower, I can do that pretty easily by just loosening that, clocking it, and redoing this rear bracket. So that's kind of where I'm at. Let's see where it figures out. Not even really sure I need a rear bracket. This kind of is super rugged. It might be okay just like that. So anyway, let me figure this out, and I'm gonna correct those two angles and move on. All right, that's sorted out. All I had to do is break away this joint right here, clock it a little bit, even it up. You can see how I did it, and I had a jack on this side and everything just came out perfect. Now,
I've been thinking about this, sitting here studying on it, and I said to myself, Self, really shouldn't make the rear bracket yet, because this is pretty well designed. I can clock that up by loosening that clamp, turning that up a hair, and I can have this at pretty much any height I want to help match the body when the body is in place. I have no idea how low the body's gonna sit over this. I just don't know. I might wanna go up, probably wanna go up. So I'm not gonna bracket the rear yet. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld everything else up, and in the rear, I'm gonna kinda leave it. And I'm gonna leave it in such a way that when I make the brackets, there'll be a clamp-on bracket or something like that. I'll have plenty of options at that time. But again, I wanna see how the body fits on this first. But this is basically it all the way back through now. I've still got my boards and stuff supporting things, but I don't need that any longer. So the next step, probably gonna wrap this video up here, but the next step is literally just pulling all these pieces back out again and welding them up. Right now they're just tacked. You can see I've got tacks in like 4 points. I usually tack them in like 6 before I start to weld, and just start welding those up, and we'll see where we get to. But I think I'm gonna wrap this video up here for now. You don't need to see me TIG welding exhaust pipes. There's far better sources out there than me. Yeah, that's about it for right now. I'm pretty happy with how that came out. I like the look of it. I like the size of it. Like I said, I have options in the rear here as to how I want to exit the body. So, having said all that, have a good one. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.